Today we are going to have a discussion on HRP, Human Resource Planning. Okay. In the previous classes, we have a discussion on roles of HRM and also functions of HRM, the history of HRM, basically the definitions of HRM. We have already discussed these things. So in the continuous lesson under this HRM, Human Resource Management class, we are going to discuss today HRP, Human Resource Planning. We can say workforce planning. Yeah. First of all, we have to understand why we have to plan our workforce. So basically, when we hire the people, we have to collect the data and information from each department, like finance, marketing, operations, we have to get, right? Based on that data, for example, some people will leave the organization. Some people will be promoted from one position to another positions, like development, training, and through the development or succession planning, we may promote people. Yeah, the organization will promote people. So all the data, all the information has to be gathered based on the information. Definitely, HR has to plan the workforce, definitely. And also, sometime the organization will have to, downsize, they have to reduce the manpower. There are some certain situation will come at this time also. They have to think about these people we can't take in the future. Sometimes these category people we don't need, or sometime they will merge in the business. Sometime the business will be merged with another business, like one business. For example, the company will have some merging with other company. At the time, there will be structural adjustments. So if there are any kind of strategic change, if there are anything in the organization, sometime according to the change, the HR has to think about everything together and plan their workforce. So have you understood this point? So there are so many reasons why HR has to plan their workforce. Okay, so we need people to run the service. So at the same time, the needs has to be analyzed. Okay, the workforce planning should be done. Okay, let's understand what is workforce planning. What is human resource planning about? Okay, workforce planning is simply stated as the right number of the people with the right competencies. Competencies mean the people who are able to perform the particular job in a satisfactory way. So that is competencies, and the right for the right job at the right time to accomplish organizational goals and missions. Right. HR is the person who is going to recruit people. He is going to bring the people into the organization. At the time, he is going to focus on the right number of the people needed for the organization with the right competencies expected for the job role he is going to perform. Yeah, and at the right time they have to hire. So these things should be planned earlier, yeah, before HR start his recruitment process. So definitely workforce planning should be at the beginning. So do you understand this point? Workforce planning or HR planning should be at the beginning in order to identify the right number of the people with the right competencies to the right job at the right time. Why we do all these things? In order to accomplish organizational goals and missions. Yeah, it means we have to run the business, definitely. Clear? So that is what we have to understand. Okay, workforce planning is a systematic process. It's a systematic process for identifying and assessing the gaps between the workforce today and the workforce of tomorrow. So already we have in the organization, there are certain number of people, as I said earlier. Yeah, already we have, but maybe next year, or maybe in 6 months, there will be a certain branches to be open. Yeah. So the number of the people has to be planned. If there are some branches to be open, or some people will leave the organization, they will go exit. Okay, some people will be terminated. Some people will be promoted. So at the time, so workforce, tomorrow's workforce should be full, workforce to be filled with today's current workforce. Based on the current workforce data, tomorrow's workforce should be forecasted, and the gap has to be addressed, identified and addressed through the systematic process. That is what we call workforce planning. Yeah, workforce planning is a systematic process. Why we do that? To identify and address the gap. What is the gap between the tomorrow's workforce and today's workforce? In today's workforce, we have certain numbers, but tomorrow's workforce, we need this number. So there is a gap. This gap has to be identified, and this gap has to be filled through a systematic process. That is what we call recruitment, selection. Yeah, there are certain processes there to fill. Yeah, do you understand this? Okay, Elaine?
Yes.
Yes, we understand.
Yes.
Yes.
Workforce planning, another point. Workforce planning is creating an integrated and ongoing strategy for ensuring an organization is prepared with appropriate human capital to meet current and future needs. This is already we discussed. Now, okay, it should integrate with organizational strategy. How the organization is going to go, how many people we need for the future. So everything should be calculated accordingly. It has been planned and also moved. So the gap should be identified. The gap should be integrated. We should know the workforce, whatever the plan created by the HR should be integrated with strategy, ongoing strategy, with the strategy of the organization. So everything should be connected. HR cannot take more people in his own, or cannot send people in his own. So based on the organizational strategy, based on the situations in the organization, so he has to think and take a decision and plan it and move accordingly. So the workforce plan is one of the key things at the beginning, has to be addressed. Okay, why workforce plan is important? First, it provides the management with a strategic basis for making human resource decision. Definitely, if there is something to be addressed, the decision has to be taken in advance. So the strategically, the management will think this much amount of people we need for the operation, this much of people we need for finance. So these kind of things has to be taken. The decision has to be taken. So based on the decision, so this workforce planning will be done, and also allows management to proactive rather than reactive in anticipating workforce need. Definitely, the organizations should deal these things in a proactive way, not reactive way. In a positive way, they have to approach and maximize the organizational effectiveness by integrating the organizational mission, strategic plan, budget resources, technology, and human resources need. So these are the things have to be considered. So when organization, what is the mission, vision, yeah, budget, strategic plan, the resources and the technological changes, human resource needs, these things should be considered in order to maximize the organizational effectiveness. So organizational effective based on the the process, the human resource process, the HR planning process, everything should be considered in order to make the organization in an effective way. The effectiveness of organization should be considered. So the functions, the operations, everything should be considered and make the organization a profitable way and make the organization in a way it functions effectively. So these things should be considered at the time. Organizational strategy should be considered, strategic plan should be considered, budget should be considered, technological changes, if there are any technological changes, if there are people we need from the technological side, and also the need of the human resources at the time. So everything should be considered together. Okay, that's why we have to plan in advance, and helps to complete and today's market. In the market, definitely we have people, so we have to bring the people in. So there are certain needs we have already in the organization. These things should be considered. Okay, so there are competitions going. Based on the competition, sometimes we have to consider what is the capacity, what is the competent workforce that we have. So everything should be considered. So workforce planning is vital when we consider the workforce for hiring people. Yeah. Under workforce planning, there are 5 steps: define the future, analyze the current workforce, close the gap, monitor, evaluate, and revise. These are the things we have to consider. Okay. First, define the future. As we said, organization has vision, mission, organizational values, and objectives. Okay, based on that, we can understand how our organization is going to move forward. Okay, at the moment, what is our organization's strategy? What is the strategy of the organizations? How the organization is going to go? For example, at the moment, what is the plan? For the next year, what is the plan? Okay, what is the vision of the organization created? Maybe the strategy from, as we discussed earlier, from one strategy to another strategy, if they are moving, or there are certain plan already the organization has. So at the time, these things should be considered together. So they have to define what is their organizational plan. The plan should be strategic. So what is the organizational strategy? This thing should be considered at the beginning. Have a defined strategic plan for agency. Definitely they have to have that. And conduct, this is also very important. Conduct a SWOT analysis. What is the strength of the workforce, weakness of the workforce, the opportunities, and also the threats. These things should be considered. And also prepare a demand forecast. What is the demand we have? So these all things should be defined at the beginning. Based on the the organization define, then only they can plan things. So this is the first thing has to be done, has to be addressed. So defining the future is the first step. Okay, based on the organizational strategy. Okay, determining the future workforce requirements. When they future for workforce considered, there are certain things should be considered. Workload. Yeah, if there are any changes on the workload, this has to be considered. If there are any new program has to be introduced, new program initiatives, it has to be considered. and anticipated attrition, if there are anything anticipated. So that kind of things has to be considered. The role and function, if there are anything changed, anything added, yeah, anything removed, these things should be considered. And the mission, strategy, if there are any changes on that, it has to be considered. And the distribution of manpower, these things are the area when we plan for future. These workforce things, workforce requirements should be fulfilled when determining the future workforce. And preparing the demand forecast. After that, demand forecast should be there. Identify the current or pending statutory or regulatory or legislative mandates. So there are certain laws, there are certain legislative systems when hiring the people. So these things should be considered. So for example, if we are going to hire people from certain country, there are certain law in that country. These laws, and also the law, the country that where we have to bring people in. So that also has to be considered. Legislative mandate should be considered. Regulatory system, if there are something, we have to identify the current skills that are becoming obsolete due to new technology. If there are some skills we don't need, or if there are some skills has to be added, everything should be considered, because based on the technological advancement, we have to bring people according to the updated technological knowledge. We have to bring people. So these demand should be considered. Identify the new skills needed to continue with the business of the agency. So if there are any new skills needed for that certain workforce that we are going to plan, so it has to be identified. And also identify shift in changing work tasks. If there are any tasks, shifting from one task to another task, if there are some gap in that task, then it has to be identified. And identify the turnover rates. For example, the people who are leaving from the organizations, these the people, the turnover rate, these turnover rate should be identified, and based on that, current workforce has to be planned. So when we prepare the demand forecast, so these are the area has to be considered. Okay. Preparing demand forecast. Okay. First, we discussed we have to determine the workforce plan based on the defining the future, how the organization has to go, right? And then we have to identify what are the requirements of the workforce plan for the future, and what are the demand forecast. So when we prepare the demand forecast, what are the things we have to consider? We have to identify the current regulations of the law, already the laws and regulations connected to the country that we are going to hire, and also identify the current skills, identify the skill needed to continue with the business, identify if there are any gaps, and also the turnover rate. These are the things has to be forecasted, has to be identified and forecasted. So in the future, we have some problem in this case. We have to address these things. So based on that, we have to prepare our workforce. Yeah. And sometimes the quantitative and qualitative data is should be collected. Yeah. The quantitative and quality data on the future competency and skill requirement should be considered. So in the future, we need people with these competencies, or these data should be collected. Sometimes the qualitative, quantitative means the quantitatives can be gathered, and the qualitative can be gathered through questionnaires or some kind of interview, some kind of sometime in the appraisal session, right? We can understand. So how many people are performing well, underperforming, how many people are going to be promoted, how many people are going to go. So these things, data we can get from the organizations when we have the appraisal. So at the time, So when we review the performance, we can understand these things. So demand, we can identify all the data. We can collect all the data. Based on the data, we have to think on. Yeah. Second thing is we have collected. Now we have to analyze, collect, then analyze the current workforce. Yeah, profiling. So what are the profiling we are going to check? First, the skill. We are going to what are the skills the employees are having? Yeah, the distribution. How many people they are distributed in how many branches? And the demographies. What is their demography connected with the age? For example, are they Generation X, Generation Y? Yeah, baby boomers. The age wise people will be hired. Some people, when we hire the people, there will be the category between for example 20 to 30, there will be people, or more than 30 to 40, or 40 to 50. So there will be a certain range of people, age range of people will be hired. So the demography, it should be there, and there will be certain people, there are certain people to go exit or retire. So at the time we have to check what kind of age people are going to go, what kind of people are going to leave. Yeah, so we have to take these data and informations, and we have to analyze. So what kind of age group we are going to focus. Yeah, the workload. So what is their workload? What are the work? What are the area? What are the functions they are going to perform? What is the productivity level that we expect, and the staffing level? Everything should be considered in our profiling. So we have to check and what is the workforce, the existing workforce, and what is their profile connected with our workforce plan. So these in our existing workforce plan, in the profile, we have to check the skills, distribution, demography, productivity of the people, and also staffing level. These are the things, and also succession plan. In the future, we have to think about these things. Outsourcing. Sometimes people, some services, some functions can be outsourced. For example, if an organization is going to outsource marketing, for example, so if they outsource marketing, then or some production area in some section, if they are going to outsource, so at the time the company should think about, these are the manpower we are going to outsource to other company. Okay, the people, we don't need to focus on these things. Yeah, these are the employees that we are going to develop. So succession planning. Yeah, this is the level of the staff we have. So the level of the staff. This is what the productivity level of the employees that we have. These are the demography. Age-wise, we have people. Okay, this is the distribution of the employees in our organization. These are the skills we have in the skill set expected, or skill set we have in our organization, in our employees. So everything should be profiled based on the workforce that exists. So do you understand this? These things should be analyzed when we plan. Okay. We will go some practical things. These are the theories. Okay.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding the manpower,
Yeah.
for example, how will structure be decided if it's required a supervisor only or manager or like that? So because, for example, a group having 5 people, does it require only supervisor?
Yeah.
So will it be required, I mean, to measure the
Yeah,
revenue
definitely.
generated, productivity like that? For
Yeah.
what type of people will handle? I mean, is it the what will be the position of the leader of the group should be
Yeah, the people who will decide who to whom to hire. This is the question you're asking. Who will decide to whom to hire?
who will decide what is the position? I mean, the level or grade. Should it be
Yeah,
supervisor only or manager only if 10 people will be handled like that in a group?
yeah. Basically, HR, based on the requirement will be collected. All the requirements will be collected from each organizational functions. Already, if there are certain number of people, management level we need, or if there are certain number of people from production, operations, marketing, yeah, research and development. So there are certain numbers we need, right? For example, these numbers will be communicated with, from the management, from each, the functional management. So each functional management, they will communicate to HR. So this number of people we need. So our business is going to, based on the strategy, yeah, based on the business strategy. For example, the number of the productions, already we have this number of productions. Yeah, already we had, for example, they are producing 10,000 shoes, for example. If they are going to produce 1 million, so the quantity is increased. So at the time, there will be certain workforce has to be increased, and sometime the number will be communicated. These numbers will be communicated based on the forecasting of the marketing department. So marketing department will say, so we are forecasting that our sales will be this up to this level for the next year. Organization will, the management will say, the leader, CEO will say, we have to increase our sale this amount to, from this amount to this amount. Yeah, this, for example, we have to bring revenue this level to this level. So then there will be target already. So based on the organizational target, organizational forecasting, based on the marketing forecasting, based on the operation forecasting, so all the data will be collected by the HR. Then from the data, HR will do these kind of workforce planning. So he is not going to go alone. He is going to discuss everything and finalize. Finally, he is going to work towards it. He is the one going to work with that. But he collectively he will work. Do you understand this, Raymond?
Yes, sir.
He can't take any decisions alone.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Whatever the supervisor, whatever the people he is going to bring, but he is not alone to think. He has to discuss with each units, each section of the line managers. Definitely the line management should give the feedback. Based on the data and information, he has to bring the people in. And there will be certain skill, deficiency, competency level. Sometimes the people who are hired, those skill set is not fitting what the organization is targeting for next year. The productions they are targeting, they want to move forward to another level. So maybe the skill set already there, or the workforce they are having, which is not that much relevant for the future. So at the time, the operation will communicate this kind of people, this skill set people, based on the technology that we are introducing. These things has to be considered, and these people has to be hired and also selected. So those things should be communicated to the HR. HR finally will do all the workforce planning. So these things will be profiled based on the, so all the data will be collected and will be profiled and analyzed. So this is what I'm telling. So I will discuss later how to plan systematically we can plan, based on the data we have to plan. We can't, for our wish, for our desire, we can't plan. So we have to bring whether it's better to bring more people. It's better to bring this amount of people. Can we think this way and bring people in? Can HR think this way? No. He has to go and collect the data. Based on the data, he has to decide. If it is no data or the requirement, he can't do anything. So these things has to be addressed and discussed with the line management, and the line management will bring all the inputs. Okay. Okay, any question here? Okay, fine. Now we have to analyze and then supply the projections. Yeah, supply the projection, examining the current and future composition of the workforce workload. So already, what is the workforce we have? What is the future we need? So the quantitative data and qualitative data should be collected. Okay. So when we supply the projection, look at the trend, the data, the workforce profile, as we discussed, hiring pattern, that is important. So how we hire people. So what is the pattern that we are having, right? Retirement patterns. How many people are retiring? Okay. Turnover statistics. These are the things should be projected. These are the things should be, the projection means next year, this amount of people will leave our organization. Next year, this amount of people will retire in our organization. So this is the workforce we are having. Okay, all the information should be collected and projected. Do you understand this? So according to the projections, the supply, okay, supply of the workforce will be there. So when we have to look at the trend, how we bring people in. We have to look at the workforce profile. So we discussed already workforce profile. Yeah, everything should be considered. Hiring patterns and the retirement patterns. How many people are retiring every year? And the turnovers. What is the turnover rate we are having? Okay. So these things should be forecasted. These things should be projected. Okay. And identify the labor market influence. Sometimes in the labor market, there are certain influences when we hire. So sometimes the labor pool, already we need certain amount of people from certain countries, but we are unable to get it. So the labor pool already declined. Maybe there are changes in the labor pool. Yeah, already sometimes the state already, the government is not issuing, then already there are certain limitations, there are certain regulations in sending certain people to certain countries. So there are state limitations, and also changing the occupational outlook. There are in the certain job in the market, in the job market is changing. So we don't need these kind of people for these services. There are certain technologies already the companies are adapting. So based on the technological things, these kind of manpower cannot be considered. So everything together, identify the labor market influence should be considered. Okay, labor market influence should be considered. These influences connected with the labor force pool and the changes in the labor force pool, and the government or the state outside already, if there are any limitations, and in the occupational things like in the job category. So if there are any changes, these are the things has to be considered, because these are the one going to influence in the labor market. Okay. And we have to start by learning about the agency, determining the competencies. We already discussed this. the competencies should be considered. Conduct general assessment of employees' current skills. So what is the current skills of the employees? Okay. Ask employees to identify career goals and future desired skill set. Already there are certain people to be promoted to certain level. So certain positions at the time, they need certain skills, or we in the organization bring people to certain position, that competency should be considered, and review certain job descriptions. Yeah, we have to think about it, and hold focus group interviews. Have some time in the interviews, when we interview people with the organizations, we can identify their competency level, and we can determine what is the skill set they are having. So based on all these things, we can understand what is the competency level the employees are having, or what is the competencies that we want to have for future. So everything should be understood by the HR department when they consider for planning their human resources for recruitment. So HR planning, while we do HR planning, we have to focus on the competencies, the skill set that we are expecting of the people who are going to be hired. Okay. And already we have already identified the gap. So we have to do gap analysis, and based on the gap analysis, we have to take an action plan, and then from the action plan, we have to implement the action plan. So in the gap analysis, we have to use demand forecasting and supply projections. We have already discussed this. So we can identify these are the people we need, this number of the people we need. So based on these supply projections, we are having some demand. We have the demand, we have this supply projections. We have to identify the gap. Based on the gap, for the future, we have to bring our workforce. Identify the situations where future demand will exceed for future supply. So for the future, for future situations, what is the number of the employees we need? So a gap should be identified. Identify the situation where future supply will exceed the future demand. That is also important. And in both types of situations, your workforce plan must address eliminating the gap. So we have currently, we have number of these people. The future, we need this amount of people. So the gap should be identified. According to the gap, the employee should be planned to hire. So we will go in practical, some case studies we can discuss later. This is only theory. So you have to understand how gap analysis is done. Okay. And also we have to go for the workforce plan, workforce action plan. So develop your action, develop your plan around the most mission critical gaps. So first we have to identify and develop, define the critical job competencies, as I said, define the redesign jobs. If there are any jobs already we have set it, and if there are something already we need to change, if we redesign our job, then these things we have to consider. And if there are any recruitment needs, if we design, we have to consider. And the training and development, if we have to consider. And also restructuring opportunities. If you have anything to restructure in the organization, it has to be considered. And the timeline for making the changes. If we are going to go for change, what is the timeline? So we have to consider the timeline for change. Yeah, and also describe how the plan will be measured. So based on the objectives, we have to consider. So when we plan something for having certain number of people for organizations, we are based on the gap, we have to plan these things together. Especially when we plan, we have to consider the jobs redesign, the recruitment needs, training and development needs, and the opportunities for restructuring, And if there are any changes, these things, and sometime the competency level, and also if there are any gap connected with our mission or the strategy of the organization, these things should be considered in our workforce action plan. Yeah, in the action plan, we have to bring all these ideas, and based on that, we have to go for planning. Okay. And we have to go for implementation. Based on the collection of the data, we can implement this plan. Okay, obtain the management leadership support. We have to ask the line managers and also the leadership. These are the number of people we are going to hire. We propose, we plan. Okay, then we have to communicate these things. And if there are any strategy, we have to develop. If there are any changes, we have to make and then communicate. So this is how we have to implement the plan. Okay. So management leadership support is vital. So when we plan the human resources, we have to consider, we have to get all the input from the line management and the leadership, the management connected with the sector. Okay, that is important. The senior level management should lead this process, and also in the organization, the program managers will gain most benefit. You know, if they are the one going to involve on that, and because of the involvement, organizations will get benefited. Yeah. Right. The development change management strategy, you know, in the organization is, if it is moving for one position to another position, or if there are any changes already forecasted, so everything will be considered. Your change management strategy should be considered. What is the change? Okay. What is the change? The HR should know. Based on the change, he is going to plan his workforce. And also, he is going to involve all change on the change, how the changes are going to involve in all stakeholders agency. So the objective has to be reviewed and weaved. Yeah, everything should be connected, and these areas should be considered. Yeah, we have already discussed all the area in our workforce planning, and then it has to be communicated. As we said, our workforce plan should be prepared and communicated to the top level management. These are the number of the people are going to be hired. This is the process that we are having, and this is how we already plan based on the analysis that we have found the gap. Based on the gap, this number of the people we are going to recruit. So recruitment plan should be submitted to the top level management. Yeah, all based on the data already being collected from the line management. Yeah. So then we can monitor these ideas. Definitely, we can go how the plan is working. Yeah, we are hiring people based on our plan. So sometime we have to think, we are unable to recruit what we planned based on the legislations, sometime external environment. We project something, but we can't bring those people. Sometimes we have to outsource things, then outsource people cannot supply. So there will be so many problems will be faced, and we have to, based on the plan, can we achieve what we have planned? So monitor, we have to monitor. As we plan, we hired people. So this is what we have to think. Okay, and finally we have to evaluate based on the plan. Based on the plan, we have to evaluate and get the feedback. So sometime we can have surveys, interviews, and focus group. Yeah. So I think this is more than enough. Okay. So we will go for some practical things. Having got the idea of this HRP, Now I will go for the practical things. Yeah, this is the theory I discussed. Now I discussed when we plan the human resource, how do we plan? Okay, what is your understanding? Anybody? Can you see this diagram?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, from the diagram we can easily understand. Now we can talk. Vasundhara, can you tell me what this diagram says about? I already discussed this. Theoretically, I just said this. From the diagram, we can easily understand.
It shows the workforce demands.
Yes.
One side you can see the hiring, and
Yeah.
the side you can see the turnover.
Yeah.
Depending on the turnover, we should have a kind of forecast.
Yes.
To maintain our hiring patterns.
Yes.
So it
Good.
affects growth for sure.
Yeah.
And it talks about the promotions and
yes,
those things as well. It's
yeah,
a simple idea of what you said.
Yeah. Do you understand this point? When you see this diagram, you can easily understand everything. So
Yes.
there are certain things written. When you
Yeah.
read, and you can easily, when you read, you can get some idea. But when you look at this picture, you can easily understand everything I discussed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all connected.
All are connected. That's
Yeah.
what I said. Don't worry. I will put everything practical. So do you understand this now?
Yes. Yes. It's clear.
How about others? From the diagram, you can easily understand.
Yes,
For the
it's
theory,
clear
I
to me.
put some notes.
Yes, sir. Clearly, we can understand that what we
For
have.
the theory, I put some notes. Just I just wanted, when we write something, we need notes, no?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
If there are something to be written, we need certain notes. So
Yeah.
those notes are there in the slide. But this is the diagram. You have to clearly understand how we determine our workforce demand. What are the factors we are going to consider? So how many is going to retire? How many is going to be promoted? Yeah, the promotion and also turnover, and the people, based on that we have to hire. So, and the growth, some people will be promoted to senior level. Yeah, from bottom line they have to go for middle level, junior to senior. So there will be certain things happening in the organizations. So everything should be calculated. Okay, not only this, and externally there are certain things which is connected with the environment. Yeah, there are already government regulations are limited. Already government has already stopped. We are not going to give visa to, for example, Sri Lanka says we are not going to give visa to Qatar. Then the manpower problem. We are depending on Sri Lankan workforce, or the Philippine government says we are not going to give workforce to Qatar. What will happen? What will happen? The companies are depending on mostly on the workforce from Philippines. So what will happen? Yeah, there are limitations, there are regulations.
Yes.
Okay, we can send our people to your country. This is what we need from your side. Yeah, there will be certain regulations from the countryside. So everything should be considered together. And sometimes the business move from one area to another area. Like I said earlier, focusing on, I will discuss that strategy now. So I will show the strategy. Can you see the strategy now? Innovations, the organizations are having innovation strategy, brand, pricing, designing, and the quality. Can you see this? Some organizations are focusing on innovation.
Yes, sir. We can see.
Yeah, and some organizations are focusing on their brand. Some organizations are focusing on their price. Okay, some organizations are focusing on their demand and the quality. Basically, when based on the focus the organizations are having, they are going to hire people. Okay, technological things, if it is connected with the technological things, the innovations are there. So employees should be more innovative and creative. So workforce, when we plan the workforce, we have to consider mostly the innovative people to bring in. Okay. Sometimes IKEA is always focused on the low cost strategy. So they are going to have some manpower. Maybe the manpower, they need to have cheap manpower. So, they are focusing mostly the low cost things. So at the same time, they will think about the people who are hired, maybe the cheap labor force. So based on the price, they will think about. So these are the strategic priorities. Do you understand this?
Yes, sir. We understand.
Based on the strategic priorities, the workforce plan, the demand will be decided. Okay. It should be aligned with organizational strategy. The HR plan should align with organizational strategy. What is the strategy of the organization? Are they innovative? Are they focusing on the price in a focus, low cost? So what is their focus? What is their strategy? What are the strategic priorities they are having? So based on that, are they going for quality? Only quality is focused. So the manpower should be hired accordingly. Yeah. Okay. So employees, based on the strategy, the employees should be hired. Their competency will be different. The motivation and the commitment, the values, everything will be considered. Okay. Do you understand this? So I don't want to go detail and discuss about this. If there are any changes, strategic changes, this should be considered. If there are any priorities on the strategy, this should be considered. If there are anything connected with the new business objective, it has to be considered. If there are something connected with competitive advantage, this should be considered. If there are any changes on strategy of the company's vision, mission, objectives, these things should be considered. So organizational strategies should be considered when we plan our workforce. Workforce plan, the HR cannot take his own decisions and bring people in. So he has to always align what he plans with the organizational strategy. Do you understand this? Accordingly, the employee should be hired. The competencies and motivation and the commitment and the values the organization is going to bring in. Yeah, the skill set, everything. So accordingly, all the functions, recruitment functions, selection functions, inductions, and also training and development. So all the functions, compensation, all the functions will be all the functions will be implemented, or all the functions will be administered. Yeah, all the area should be administered by the HR. HR is not going to run himself. As we discussed in the role of the HR, we have already discussed. HR will think about the external customers. In order to satisfy the external customers, he has to think about the business. So context, he will focus on the context. What is the context of the organization? So what the external customers expect, like the stakeholders, shareholders, or the customers, what they expect. So based on the expectations, he has to design everything. So there should be certain number of people has to bring in based on the way the organization to move forward. Okay, already planned for the future. Based on the data, we can clearly identify in 2013, the number of the employees we had 120.
Yes.
2014, we need 128. 15, 130.
Yes.
2016, 140. So our employees' demand is increasing. Do you understand?
Yes. Yes.
So why it is increasing? The numbers already, how many numbers are there? 18, yeah?
Yeah.
18, the demand. Now they need 18 more people. In 2014, 23 people. 2015, 28 people. 2016, 29 people. So demand is there.
Yes.
So this number of demand is there. But internally, what is the availability? So 15 is there. So external demand is 3. Okay.
Yes.
So here internally we have 12. So we need extra 11. Internally we have 8 in 2015.
Yes.
But external we have to hire 20. Do you think it's easy 20? So 3 is fine. It's green level.
Yes.
Yeah, 11 is yellow level. But 20 and 22. Now the problem in bringing people into the organization. See?
Yes. Yes, sir.
It's increasing. Yeah, recruitment is a challenging now. Yeah, bringing people in is a challenge.
Yes, sir.
We need people. Our number of employees are increased, but the internal availability is already decreased.
Yes,
so, sir. HR, they are going to suffer to bring people.
Exactly. Yes.
You understand? This is what we are understanding. So, based on these data, now we can understand this amount of people we need to hire. So based on the data only we can bring people in. We can't bring as we wish. So first,
sir.
We will go one by one. How we can plan our human resources based on what evidence we can go for. We will discuss. This is one of them. Based on the previous data. Based on the demand increased. So we have to think about this is how the internal availability is. This is the demand is being created in our organization.
Yes,
externally, sir. We have to focus in this level. Our organization is suffering or going to face some hardships in finding the people because people are leaving.
Yes, sir. Yes,
internal availability, people are leaving. So retention is low or turnover is high. Or maybe our departments are merged or our organizational structure is changed. Maybe our organization is going to go for another level from low cost to technological things. Okay, do you understand this?
Yes, sir, I understand.
So, what about others?
I understand, sir.
Yeah, Raymond, good. So, from the data, we can easily understand. That's why I put this slide also in the last. Maybe the theory will be confusing. If I talk and talk and talk, finally you will not get anything. So, that's what I wanted to put these data and try to interpret and make you to understand easily. From the data you can capture. Okay. So this is how the workforce is planned. So there are 4 strategies. One is based on the indicators we can identify, we can plan. Based on the trend we can plan. Based on the task analysis we can plan. Based on the conclusion by analyzing analogy, we can bring people. We can plan people. We can plan our workforce. What are the way? Indicators. Take assumptions. For example, in ICON, for how many students we need a teacher? In the hospital, for how many patients we need certain number of nurses? There are certain ratios. Based on this ratio, we can plan our HR manpower. Do you understand this point? Based on the ratio, there are certain ratios. How many managers for employees? How many employees for example, if you have this amount of employee, you need a manager. If you have this amount of employees, you need an HR. Okay, there are some certain ratio to determine. Vasundhara, do you understand this?
Yes, sir.
When we plan HR, what do you call it? Human resource planning, how many people we have to take? So this is also one of the indicator. We can take it. This is how we can do. One way. We can follow the ratio between the performance and the required number. There is a ratio. Yeah, that's based on the experience. They are doing that.
Yes.
Okay. This is one of the strategy. Another one, trend analysis, applying statistical models that predict labor demand for the future and given objective statistics from the previous year. For the last year, we just check it, no? For the last year, yeah, what was our situation? Now, what is the situation? For the next year, what is the situation will be? So we can go, okay? Trend, we can see the trend. What is the situations? Based on the trend, we can bring, we can hire. That is what we call trend analysis. Do you understand this?
Yes, sir, we understand.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, fine. Third one is task analysis. Tasks are identified and quantified in terms of appearance and workload. What is the task we are having? For example, the department. In the department, there are certain tasks. We need certain tasks to be done. So, for example, there is a data here. From this, you can understand. This is what we call task. Sorry, this one is task. Do you understand task analysis? Who can interpret this from the Pizza Hut? This is task analysis. This is workforce planning based on the data, the trend you can see. We will discuss one by one. So let's go for task analysis. For the pizza, you know, when you make a pizza, what we will do? There are certain activities to be done now. There will be certain customers. In one day, there will be certain customers to Pizza Hut. Okay, for example, per a day, we have 200 customers. Okay. They are occupying one customer, oh, sorry, 3 customers will be in one table. 3 customers will use one table. Okay. So for 200 customers, we need how many tables? Okay. How many hours they will stay? Okay. What is their order? If they are going to drink something, what is their order? How many they will order? How many pizzas they will order? If it is 200, there is a possibility for 200 pizzas. So preparing 200 pizzas. Yeah. Do you understand? Billing. Each table, how many tables will be billed? 67 tables. How many drinks will be used? 400. So 1 from the guest, 2 for 1 table. So there will be 400. So these data will be considered, and the task. For example, for preparing a table, how many minutes will take? For ordering, how many minutes will take? For preparing pizza, how many minutes will take? For billing, how many minutes will take? For chatting, how many minutes take? Or for preparing drink, how many minutes will take? So based on these time, and for the hour, for calculating, for totally how many hours they will take. Okay, so all the data will be considered. From this data, the workforce demand will be calculated. Do you understand?
Yeah, understood.
Yes, sir.
We can't decide in our own way how many people we hire for a restaurant. Sometimes we are running with 6 people. So from other restaurant, we can say they are running with 4 people. Why can't we run with 4 people? They are running 4 people, so we can have 4 people. No, can we think this way? No, based on the volume, yeah, based on the service time, based on the demand. So everything should be considered in detail based on the task already performed. Yeah. For example, total hours. How many total hours we need for 200 guests? 38 hours. How many hours we are working per day? 8 hours. So what is the demand, workforce demand we need just to bring this by dividing by 8? So almost 4 to 7. Minimum we need 4 people or maximum 7 people to run this shift. You understand? So minimum we need 4 people. If it is a high volume, we need maximum 7. So in order to understand the task, what is the task we are performing in the organizations, what is the time duration we are taking, how many people we need to cover that task. So scientifically, we will do some kind of analysis. Then finally, we will come to know this amount of people we need. So when the trend is increasing, if the customer flow is increasing, we have to think this way. So if we take for 6 months, our sales is already down, or for the 6 months, our sales is increasing. So we have to think about this, the trend, and from the trend, we can calculate, we had already 4 people. Now our sales are increasing. We need 7. Again, our sales are increasing. We need 10. How we come to know we need 10? Based on the calculation that we are having, how many guests we are going to have, how many tables we are going to use, how many hours they are going to spend, how many orders they are going to make, how many things we are going to prepare. So how many hours it will take, how many people will be included to cover up these things. So all the tasks will be analyzed. Based on the analysis, it has the workforce has to be finalized to plan. So this amount of people we need for this shift. For the morning shift, we need this amount of people because we have this customer level, we have this customer flow. So we need this. In the evening shift, we need this. For the night shift, we need this. Okay. So the number of the people for the organization, for the store, we need this amount. For 1 store, we need this amount. So for 10 store, we need this amount. So with the low volume, high volume. So everything should be considered. And this amount of people are going to be promoted. This amount of people are going to leave. This amount of people are going to, have some kind of internal training. So everything should be considered when we hire, when we plan our workforce. Any questions here? Task should be analyzed.
Yes, I have a question.
This is a sample. This is a sample. So when we do analysis based on the activity, we have to analyze. Another one.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you go to the slide last one? I'm confusing with the numbers 4 and 7. Can you tell me how you get the number of workforce demand? The lower is 4, the higher is 7. How this number comes? I didn't get this part.
This is sometime from the experience they will get it. Okay. So minimum 38 should be divided by 8. What is that number?
Around 5, 4.5, something like that.
Yeah. So now they are putting between that, the minimum, the maximum.
So is that the number?
This is not the exact one.
Okay.
At least we can come to a decision. Do you understand? At least.
Okay.
We
Understand
can't
now.
exactly come to a decision, but at least we can say, so these are the activities we are going to perform. In this way, we finalized. From we can't just put this amount we need. We can't say. We need certain calculations. After calculation, we can come to.
Okay, that's the number, the basic based on the analysis, and they have the minimum and the maximum.
Maximum,
That's right.
minimum, and maximum. We can bring
Okay.
it. Yeah.
All right.
So
clear.
it is
Thank
already
you.
acceptable, no? It is acceptable. If you do this way, it is acceptable. Otherwise, you will bring something, but it is if you don't analyze the task, what is happening in the store, then how can we bring people? Low volume, high volume. If you know how, what in the low volume this amount, high volume this amount, how do you come to know? In this way, by analyzing the task. It is done in the store. Okay.
Okay.
In
Okay,
each store
clear.
we need. Okay, in how many store we need. So from this amount, we can go. This amount of people are going to leave. This amount of people are promoted. So again, you know that already this table. Yeah, this what do you call pyramid? You can understand, no? Okay, clear.
Yes, clear. Thank you.
Yeah. Another one is task analysis. We have already trend. This is the trend analysis. So this is the trend. Okay. What is the trend? 2003 to 2013. Revenue. Can you see the revenue? 6,000, 12,000. 6,000. We need. We have sales staff. Full-time equivalents mean FTE means sales. How many people we need that for 30? So if it is 6,000, 12,000, how many? 65. How we come to know? Yeah.
Based on revenue.
Yeah, revenue. Okay.
Generated revenue per staff.
Okay. But this is the revenue. And also, this is the number. Already we need this 3, so 30, and other staff we need 9, and together we need 39. The total. So 2003 we need 39. 2013. So it's 2014 when we check the revenue. Yeah. 2007 when we check the revenue. 2013 when we check the revenue. The trend, we can see the trend. Based on the trend, we can analyze. Maybe if the trend is going down, what will happen? It's increasing. So demand is also increasing. Okay. See the managers. How do you know the management? So here 2003, 6 managers. How they come to know 6 managers? There is a span of control. What is the span of control? 7 people. For 7 people, 1 manager. What is the span of control for managers? If there are 7 people, there should be 1 manager. Yeah. For 39 people, how many managers should be there? 6 managers. Okay. 47, how many managers? 7 managers. Yeah, 78, how many managers? It has to be divided. 85, how many managers? Do you understand? How many managers are increased? How the sales is going to, how the sales are increased? So based on this increasement, we can go calculate the people. At least by looking at the trend, we can come to a decision. This amount of people we need for next year. Do you understand? We can plan this. This is also one of the way identifying the workforce by looking at the trend of the business, how our sales is there, by looking at the task of the organization, how people are doing in the organization, in the low volume and the high volume by looking at some indicators based on ratio. Do you understand this?
Sir, question.
Yeah, no problem.
Earlier, you mentioned that the span of control,
Yeah,
span of control is the main factor to
yeah.
distribute, deciding factor to allocate number of managers. Right?
Managers, yeah, right. Yeah.
So it's not directly related to the revenue, or it's really related to revenue. Employee, not the revenue.
Not related to employer. We have to divide, no? See, you can see the average revenue is 88%. Our sales is increasing by 8%. So when you go and see that dividing average revenue divided by sales, we can have the revenue FTE. FTE, we can get that FTE. So from the FTE, we can get, do you understand? Average. From the average FTE, again, if you divide by sales, then we can get that total. Okay. There is a system. There is a system already been created, and flow, we have to observe the flow. What we have to understand the trend, how our sales is increasing. Okay, maybe if the sales is going down, what will happen? Can we bring more people? This is already we have more because of the more sales we are thinking to bring more. How the sales are increased? Because the stores are increased. Do you understand? Earlier, in one store, we are not going to have these all, right? We may have 5 stores. Now we already started another 2 stores, or maybe we have started another 3 stores. So for the stores, we need certain people, right? We have the sales because we started the new branches. Because of the new branches, we got this amount of sales. To run that business, we need certain number of people. Because of the sales increasement, we need more people. Sometime we have to close the store. We have to downsize because we have no sales. We will remove people and put somewhere, and we will close one store. Do you understand? Based on the sales trend, we can come to a conclusion that this amount of people has to be hired, or this amount of people has to be promoted. Whatever, the HR should plan based on this trend. This is the point I'm talking. These are the techniques on workforce planning. We can go for some leading indicators based on the ratio. We can go for identifying the trend of the business. How is our trend? We can go for the task. What are the tasks performed? And also sometimes we can identify certain analogy, okay, according to or compare it with other store, other branches, yeah, other or competitors. We can also go for analogy. Okay, do you understand? Which is more suitable based on the data we do is more suitable. If you don't have data, then it's a problem. Sometimes it will, our HR plan, we plan something and something will happen. So and it is a cost. Bringing people inside the organization is a cost. Do you understand? Is it a cost? If you bring people inside the organization, is a cost, because we are the one going to take care of that employee. Yeah, we are going to give everything. Yeah, the salary, compensations, and the facilities, fringe benefits, and everything. It is a cost. So when we don't think planned properly the human resource that we would like to have, then it will be a disaster for the organization. Sometimes if our workforce planning is not up to that standard that we expecting for the organizational demand. And if you if the HR is not bringing the certain numbers, already the demand is this amount, the supply is low, then what will happen? The demand is 10, but the supply is 6. What will happen?
There's a gap between those.
There is a gap, and also the running the operation will be hard. Yeah, running the operation will be hard. Like the operation department will complain. The line managers will complain. We need more people. We how you found this amount? How you found amount this? In your own, HR cannot do anything in his own. He has to get some data. From the data, he has to analyze. The data can be ratio basis or trend analysis or task analysis or analogy. Okay, these are the area normally considered when planning the work, planning the resources. Do you have any questions here? That's it. In this area, in this subject, I want to discuss. Okay. So workforce planning, you don't need more technical things for your course. Okay. Even though I just put this because the HRM and the HRM, we have to talk more. Your subject is business management, but I'm giving more additional knowledge how human resource is planned. You understand? For your clarity, I'm putting this information in order to understand the theory. So if you have understood, fine. If you have any